Madam President, constituents from every state who care about our public schools and our students in public schools have broken records calling us, their senators, in opposition to Betsy DeVos as Education Secretary. In the past few weeks, I've heard from thousands of Hawaii residents concerned about voting for an education secretary who clearly does not believe in our nation's public schools. I'd like to share two of their messages today. One constituent wrote to me, "Dear Senator Hirono, as a proud Hawaii educator for 30+ years, I'm deeply troubled by the possible appointment of Betsy DeVos to the position of U.S. Secretary of Education. Although I would personally never consider applying for a job I am not qualified to serve in, it's baffling to me that our new Commander-in-Chief thinks someone who has no experience as a teacher or administrator could be remotely prepared to lead our nation in this role. I don't have to explain to you what a selfless calling being a teacher is, nor do I believe our Hawaii delegation takes educating Hawaii's keiki lightly. So I implore you to work with other leaders in DC to make sure we have a suitable nominee for this essential position." Mahalo, Sandy from Honolulu. Sandy and teachers like her devote more time and effort than is mandated to ensure that our public school students have a solid foundation in education and for life. Teaching is a calling, and I have met with many, many teachers who are totally committed to doing the very best that they can for their students, and they want nothing less from the next Secretary of Education. They deserve a better qualified, better experienced, better prepared, and more committed Secretary of Education than Betsy DeVos. Next, I'd like to share a message from Lorelei, a middle school principal on Oahu. Her letter begins, "Dear Senator Hirono, as a strong supporter of public education, I ask that you oppose the confirmation of Betsy DeVos as Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education. Educators and students deserve a secretary who can commit to supporting every student in all public schools and a leader that will work tirelessly to promote a public education system that provides each child with the optimum conditions for teaching and learning. Betsy DeVos's past work in education and her performance at the recent confirmation hearing demonstrated neither a depth of experience nor knowledge based in education policy and on critical issues facing the community." She ends her letter by saying, "As a principal, I have spoken with teachers, parents, students, and community members across the political spectrum, and there is widespread agreement that Betsy DeVos is not the right person for the job." As Lorelei said, it shouldn't be asking too much to have an education secretary who will stand up for public schools and the millions of our children who attend our public schools. That person is certainly not Betsy DeVos. In his opening remarks at Betsy DeVos's confirmation hearing, the chairman of the Help Committee said that Ms. DeVos was in the, and I quote, mainstream for supporting vouchers to send students to private schools instead of investing in our public schools. This is not mainstream thinking. Being told otherwise is, again, dealing in alternative facts. The chairman went on to repeat a so-called argument that Betsy DeVos and other school choice advocates make, that vouchers are simply Pell Grants for primary and secondary education. Now, this is a real head scratcher, and I say, what? Here we go down the rabbit hole again, where up is down and down is up. Pell Grants and vouchers are fundamentally different. Pell Grants help offset the ever-rising cost of a voluntary college education. All colleges charge students tuition, and Pell Grants provide opportunity to low-income students to be able to go to college. In contrast, every American child has a right to a free primary and secondary public education. Vouchers actually take resources away from public schools and make it that much harder to provide a good education for all of our students. Vouchers take money away from public schools. Pell Grants don't. When a student uses a Pell Grant at a private college or university, it has no impact on the funding a state college or university receives. But when a student uses a voucher to attend a private school, it takes away money from local public schools. How is taking money away from local public schools mainstream thinking? The Secretary of Education should be focused on improving our public schools, not taking money away from them. Furthermore, saying that Pell Grants are similar to vouchers reveals a fundamental lack of understanding of the Pell Grant program. Among her many duties as Secretary, Betsy DeVos would be in charge of managing $30 billion of Pell Grants per year, which help more than 8 million students afford a college education in this country. During the 2014-2015 school year, more than 21,000 students in Hawaii were able to finance their college education with nearly $81 million in Pell Grants. Last Congress, I led legislation to protect and strengthen the Pell Grant program. But under Republican majorities, Pell Grants are under the constant threat of irresponsible cuts and mismanagement and dismantlement, even though college today is more expensive than ever. Can we really trust Betsy DeVos to fight to protect Pell Grants? Someone who equates Pell Grants with vouchers is not someone who understands her responsibilities under the Pell Grant program. So can we really trust Betsy DeVos to support the Pell Grant program? I don't think so. I have spoken out against Betsy DeVos's nomination a number of times, but some questions need repeating. What are we telling our students if we have an education secretary who is not committed to improving the public education system so that our students can succeed in school and in life? 9 out of every 10 students in the United States attends public school. What are we saying to them? That the best we can do is to give them an education secretary who does not believe in the public schools they attend? Who doesn't believe that their education is worth fighting for? If this is the message you want to send to our students and their families, then vote for Betsy DeVos. On behalf of the nearly 200,000 public school students in Hawaii and their teachers and other educators in Hawaii, my answer is a strong, strong no. I urge my colleagues to question Betsy DeVos's commitment to our public schools, to the millions of students who go to public schools, and vote against her nomination. I yield the floor.